Hi, everyone. This is your host, Maheen, and welcome to another episode of the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we spotlight the engine of our economy, the small businesses. We're ready to explore another essential facet of our community today. Today, we're delving into how consumer behaviors are reshaping the marketplace. Joining us today is Elisa Swern, a renowned consumer markets leader and partner at PwC Canada. With over 2.5 decades of commanding experience in retail and consumer strategy, Elisa's insights have guided numerous organizations towards operational excellence. As an active leader of PwC's alumni team in the GTA, she also spearheads innovative programs for community engagement. Let's gain from her profound knowledge on today's evolving market dynamics. Without a further ado, let's welcome Elisa. Elisa, welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
Hi, thank you. I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Elisa, we're quite excited to have someone of your expertise share transformative insights on consumer markets. I mean, your broad experience across retail and consumer goods is something our listeners are eager to learn from. Now, to begin things with, Elisa, your team recently published an insightful report about consumer behavior. Could you please share why PwC decided to conduct the survey and what were some of the key demographics involved?
Sure, absolutely. So we released this year our Voice of the Consumer. It's actually a global survey that's conducted with over 20,000 participants around the world. And then we also do a Canadian edition of that. And so that's specifically for Canadian consumer markets companies, retail, wholesale, packaged goods. And in that part of the Canadian edition survey, we have just over 1,000 participants, and we go across all demographics in that, as well as for the Canadian one across all provinces in Canada.
Now, if we were to build onto this a bit more, Lisa, how might these findings influence small businesses in their strategies?
Yeah, so I think that, how the consumer is looking to spend and what's top of mind for them is really important to consumer markets companies, regardless of size, right? So, whether you have, one or two stores, or you're a small manufacturer or a large manufacturer, the findings are really the same. The difference is, how you're going to interpret them to what they could mean for your business and how you can respond to them. And in fact, small and medium businesses might be able to respond faster to some of the changes than some of the larger ones.
Thank you so much for shedding light on the importance of understanding consumer demographics in today's economy. Now, let's kind of learn some more strategies for retailers because, in an era where value and quality drive consumer choices, strategies for retailers are as important. On that note, Elisa, what strategies can retailers employ to attract and retain customers, especially in competitive markets like Canada?
Yeah, so, in the study, what we found was that inflation was really top of mind for a lot of consumers. And in fact, 44% of respondents said that it was the top threat facing the country. And that even was on top of an eclipsing, other areas such as economic viability and health risks. So, consumers are really focused on inflation and how that's impacting them. And it's mostly impacting them through their ability to have the same amount of discretionary spend that they're used to having over the last couple of years. And so, what I would say is most important for small, medium businesses is to think, if that consumer has less money in their pocket, you could see what's going to be more important to them and how you're going to react to them, right? So, another data point that we had was that, more than 4 in 10 Canadian consumers said that they would switch to a competing brand that offers better value for their money. So in the past, Canadian consumers have been very loyal to their brands as well as to where they buy the different products from. And this is the first time that we've seen this come up in our data, and we've been running a similar study for many years now. And so, value is so important to consumers right now that they are willing to switch. So how you're focusing on your value perception, as well as your pricing and your promotions in stores, is more important than ever for the Canadian consumer.
Well, these insights are so invaluable for businesses that are aiming to enhance their consumer appeal. Elisa, to back this up, can you please share an example of a successful strategy that is implemented recently?
Retailers and consumer markets companies are putting in a lot of different strategies right now to address what we were talking about in terms of inflation, as well as to address trust, which is another big theme that came out. And these, like the strategies that they're working on, really vary depending on the company. So, we're seeing a lot of companies look at their technology, for example. Over the last number of years, and especially with COVID, there's been a very big emphasis on e-commerce and on mobile. And so this is where we spend a lot of strategic energy, is really looking at core areas inside the business that either have older, very heavily customized technology, and moving them onto more common platforms where they can make updates and upgrades much easier, much more fluid than they have in the past. And so we've really spent a lot of time kind of looking at all areas of the business, ranging from HR to finance to supply chain to merchandising, and opportunities for them to be able to modernize their technology and just have it be more streamlined to be able to move forward with it in the future.
Now, this is such a great example to really reflect on what we've just discussed about consumer priorities. But listeners, as Elisa mentioned, understanding what drives consumer choices is more than just about adapting. It's really about aligning your business to meet these evolving needs. So really think about questions like how your business can really further incorporate these insights to enhance customer satisfaction and loyalty. Now, Elisa, we discussed that, consumer priorities have shifted dramatically over the recent years. Based on your report, what are some key concerns that Canadian consumers have today?
Yeah, so I'll go back to two. So one big theme that came out in the data this year was around trust. And this is something that I think, again, all companies, large and small, should be focused on. So consumers want to trust the company. So they want to have transparency, right? So when you have reporting, whether it's, financial reporting or even messaging that you have inside your, consumer connection points, whether it's a store or signage outside your factory or with your online presence, need to be sharing your stories in a transparent way. What's important to the consumer, especially when it comes to things like sustainability, right? If you have a number of sustainable practices in place, you should be sharing that with your consumers so that they know where you are. You should be sharing with them things like, if you're asking them for their data, if you have a loyalty program, how that data is going to be safeguarded. These are really important, topics for consumers right now as we're interacting with them.
Now that we've discussed the current consumer concerns, how should businesses really adapt to these concerns to maintain trust and relevance?
Yeah. So I think that, and again, I think that maybe there's some advantage here for small medium businesses. Is one of the topics that's been very relevant for consumers is local products. So not only what you're doing from a sustainable perspective, but how are you incorporating local products that come from nearby or definitely within Canada into what you're selling to consumers? How are you sharing that with your consumers? They really want to know. They really want to know about that. And in fact, in some cases, they're actually willing to pay more when they know that a product is local than a product that's coming from factories overseas, for example. So this has become really important. And again, on the sustainability topics, anything that you can share around how you're lowering your carbon footprint, what type of recycling you're using, whether it's in your packaging or anything that you're doing on that front is always it seems to be very top of mind coming from this study.
Understanding these concerns is so crucial for businesses to remain connected with their customers. And talking about sustainability, let's discuss the impact of sustainability because it's becoming such a significant factor in consumer decisions. Elisa, how are Canadian consumers responding to sustainability practices in the market?
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is that one is that it's excuse me, it's important from a trust perspective. But what we saw this year, which was the first time that we've seen this, is that Canadian consumers are willing to pay a sustainability premium. So just about 7% of Canadian consumers, compared to just slightly under 10% globally, said that they would pay a premium of 10% or more for sustainable products. We haven't seen this in the data previously. And so some of the clients that I interact with would often ask me this question, well, we can invest in these sustainable practices, but are consumers willing to spend more for them? Because if not, then we're just increasing our costs of goods. So this was the first time that we've seen this come out in the data. And I think it's really super interesting and something that, companies should be taking into consideration, especially that, like I said, consumers are willing to pay a premium now.
Mm-hmm. And how can small businesses what steps can they take to integrate these sustainability factors into their operations?
Yeah, so this goes back to, ways that you are lowering your carbon footprint, even talking about some of the suppliers that you're using and assurances around those suppliers so that, you can assure your customers that, there isn't any slave labor involved in your practices, and, you aren't using any child labor and things like that. Consumers want to know about that. It, like, again, going back, it opens up transparency and it increased trust with the consumer.
Your perspective really highlights the growing importance of sustainability in building a loyal customer base, Elisa. And on that note, I really like to pause here and really connect with all of our listeners. Listeners, the push towards sustainability isn't just a trend, it's a growing expectation from consumers. And it's so fascinating to see that despite economic pressures, many are still willing to pay a premium for sustainability. You really need to think about questions such as how does this resonate with your business practices? And are there any new ways that you might integrate these values to attract a better customer base? But talking about the future consumer trends, Elisa, staying ahead of trends is always essential for business success. What future consumer trends should businesses be preparing for, and how is PwC helping businesses anticipate and adapt to these trends?
Yeah, I think that some of the trends that we're seeing in this study and ones that are going to continue for a while are really around that price conscious shopper. So, consumers have inflation as top of mind. So thinking about, how to create that value perception to your consumers, right? Thinking about pricing, thinking about promotion, thinking about things that are that make you different or unique than, some of the larger players. Maybe it's your product assortment or, where the ingredients of your products come from, and things like that. I would also be thinking on the technology side about how you're going to continue to move forward with your business and have tools that are easy for you to use and easy for you to build on in the future. And if you are pulling data from your consumer for loyalty programs and others, looking at the safety of that data and making sure that it's secure. And then also, I would be thinking about AI and how you can start to build a generative AI into your business practices. This isn't something for big companies. Generative AI is for everybody. The cost to entry can be very, very low. And there's some really good opportunities to use it to build out different areas in your business, even things like customer service, in hours where, you might have somebody answering the phone, but in hours where you don't, or for consumers who want to go online, having using AI to be able to answer, some basic questions, but maybe even a little bit more detailed questions. That's something that we're starting to see also in the feedback. So, right now, you'll see some companies have basic information around where the company is located or what do I need to click on to find out about my account or things like that. But, you can go further with it and you can, talk about, your sustainability program. You can talk about, where your products come from. There's all kinds of things that you can do in that space. And I think it's going to just continue to evolve. And generative AI is evolving at a much faster pace than we've seen any other technology. So I'd say if you're not acquainted with it, it's very easy to go online and learn a lot about AI and start to think about how you want to incorporate it into your business. And then the last one is the climate related concerns that, I think I've spoken quite a bit about already.
No, it's great. I mean, you really emphasize well on that preparing for the future is key. And Lisa, all the insights that you've shared today, they really help pave the way for our listeners. And before we wrap up, Elisa, could you share any final piece of advice for small businesses that are looking to navigate the complexities of today's consumer market?
I would really think through the couple key themes that we talked about, because it's something that you have to think about, like for your own company and your own business. It's very individualized. So when you think about, trust, you think about, things like secure data, sustainability, importance of value perception. I think you really have to take, those are big topics, big meaty topics, and you can see from the report the detail coming out from consumers. But I think you really have to internalize it for your business and say, what does that mean for me? So, from a trust perspective, if I'm a small business and maybe I'm not collecting data from consumer, how can I continue to build on trust? I mean, consumers are shopping with me because they do trust me, but how do I continue to build that? What other kinds of transparency and things can I start to share with them, or maybe dialogue with them to build that level of trust? So I think it's really, you have to think about what it means for you and for your company, and then build on it from there. But take these ideas and these points and start to, think about what they could mean for you.
Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for joining us today and providing such comprehensive insights. I believe these will be very useful for our listeners today. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
To our listeners, we hope you found this discussion enlightening. Remember that staying informed is your best strategy in this dynamic market. We'd like to extend our thanks to our wonderful guest, Elisa Swern, as well as to our partners, our exclusive banking partner, RBC, exclusive shipping partner, UPS, exclusive accounting software partner, Xero, email partner, Constant Contact, and our exclusive hospitality partner, IHG Business Edge. Don't forget to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine for more valuable insights. Visit us at canadiansme.ca. Until next time, keep thriving in your business ventures.